We're going to make a beef stew with red beans and lentils, and that'll give it the body. The lentils will just disintegrate and make it thicker. And this isn't the amount, but these are the items. Fresh thyme, bay leaf, fresh basil, celery, carrots, potato, garlic, mushrooms, shallots, onions, and I'm going to be cooking it in my Calphalon slow cooker, but this one you could put on the stove. So it's going to get red hot, and I'm going to saute the meat, get nice color on the meat, then saute all the chopped up vegetables, and throw some of my homemade tomato sauce in there, water. Now the herbs, I'm gonna be lazy about the herbs. It takes a little while to clean it, so I just want to show you I'm gonna boil the herbs. I'm gonna boil up the bay leaves and the basil. That's how much basil I have. And I'm not going to put down on the recipe how much there is. You see, it's a nice big, if you were buying those little packages in the supermarket, it's the equivalent to about 2 of those. And then all of this fresh thyme. That's a lot. Put that in there. I'm going to boil it for about, I don't know, 20 minutes to a half hour. And that stock I will pour into the crock pot, and that way I save some time, excuse the pun, because in order to really, it takes a long time to clean the thyme and then dice it up. So it's really not a big deal, but everything should come out nice. Great fresh ingredients. So let me get started. I have a lot to do. I have to cut up all the vegetables, get the meat seasoned up, get it ready to saute, get some wine to deglaze at the very end, and then put it in the slow cooker and forget about it for about, I don't know, 6 hours or so. I want to get moving here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to saute the meat in this very, very hot oil, and over here I'm going to saute the vegetables in some oil. If you notice the way I diced them up, I left the garlic whole and the rest of the vegetables cut up in not very small pieces so you could see them later. And I will add the mushrooms to the vegetables after they sweat up a little bit, because if you add the mushrooms now, that's going to turn to water. And this, when this starts to smoke, I'm going to add the beef. And I'll season up the beef with my salt and pepper mix. You know what's annoying? When you have something someplace and you know it's there, and all of a sudden it's not there. So someone has to pay. Meanwhile, we'll just season that. It's a lot of beef, but you know what? Every time I make something similar to this, I never have enough meat in the mix. So we got the beef. A little black pepper. And what I'm going to do is, doesn't matter how much salt and pepper you put on the meat right now, because since it's a stew, the flavor It's like a soup, not like a steak. So whatever seasoning is on here is going to go throughout. And then we will have some nice smoke there and do little amount at a time. So you brown the meat and not boil it. Once the searing, sizzling stops, then you're no longer going to be able to get nice brown color. And the nice brown color is going to affect the taste and the color of the stew. And over here, the vegetable is being sweat up. And I will drop the beef right on top of the vegetables. Okay, so no sense in wasting film. Round it up real good like this. I can smell that delicious flavor of, you know, like when you grill, barbecue a piece of beef. That's what I'm getting now because it's very hot. Then we're going to take it out, throw it right on the vegetables, which are coming along very nicely. So do this to the meat. That's going to take about maybe 20 minutes. Okay, now I'm finished with all the beef. And since the vegetables don't have to brown, but I like them to, because they impart a nice flavor that way also, I'll just take some of the vegetables out of here. Then I'll take some red wine. A dry red wine. And deglaze this. And then pour it into the Cuisinart. I mean the slow cooker. Nice dry red wine. Not sweet. So I'll cook that for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I can add everything else to the stew. Like the lentils. If you wanted the lentils to be whole and not overcooked, you'd add them much later, but that's not what I'm looking for. Throw in the potatoes. Little red beans. Not adding any stock because you know what? I think we have enough flavor here that it makes its own stock. Just as long as we just have everything covered. So in 10 minutes that should reduce a little bit more. Now what I like about this all-clad slow cooker is that you can put it on the stove, and this way it starts it off. We're going to add 2 cups of tomato sauce to this. This way everything is hot going into the cooker. And the last, but not least, is the herbs. Which have been boiling, and I added more liquid to it, so I really got all the flavor out of them. And that just worked out where I didn't have to add any more liquid. Just give that a stir. Then I will place it into the... I set the crock pot for 8 hours on low. As you can see, right there. I made a mess on the stove with the sauteing, but I have all this time now to clean it. Just press start, and if I find the cover, that would be a nice thing. And there we go. Check back with you later in about, I'm going to check it at 5 hours. It's 3.5 hours. I had already added some liquid to the top. As you can see, I like the way this is working. It's not watery, and once the lentils start to break down, color's great. I'm not tasting it until later. And the meat, oh boy. So that's 3.5 hours, and I would say another half hour to 45 minutes, and this might be done. Now this is on high, so you can see it bubbling slowly.